SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
If you're feeling anxious about your investments with all the economic volatility and chaos in Washington, tune in to SuperTalk Jackson on Wednesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. and Sundays from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. for Element Wealth Radio with Jeremy Nelson. Learn more at myelementwealth.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Hey, what's up? Good morning to you. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, the 29th day of April. Next to last day of the month of April. Glad to have you along, whether you're listening online, listening on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio show station, SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. A dozen of the... Hold on. One more drink of coffee.
Nice Masters mug, though.
All right, let's see if I can talk now. One of the dozen SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations across the state. However it is that you're listening, we're glad that you are with us this morning. It'll be a great day today. It'll be a great day. That voice you heard was Lance Tolbert. I'm Richard Cross. Thanks for joining us. What's up, buddy?
I'm just really admiring that mug. You know,
Good one.
I need one of those. I guess you got to get one of those firsthand, though, to make it really worth, you know, you can brag. You got to have bragging rights. Yeah, I was there. I got that coffee cup. I don't have that, so.
I just need something to drink the coffee out of this morning.
Straight and black this morning.
Every morning. Every morning, that's how it is.
You were up late putting together a synopsis of the day, so.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with your birthday love, too. I mean, there was quite a bit.
Well, I know. I said we would pick 3 big ones, but there were a bunch of them today, and probably need some music to go with some of them, and that's all right. Weather's going to be pretty good today. Intervals of clouds and sunshine today in Water Valley. High of 86 with winds out of the south-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. In Greenwood, you're going to be cloudy early with partial sunshine expected later in the day. High of 88, winds out of the south, 10 to 15. CC says if you drink Lance's coffee, you can do the show hanging upside down by one leg.
Yes. Well, you know, I like to get in here early, make the get the coffee, pod thing, and put a couple of them in there if you're smart, and get that first cup. That it's like motor oil. It's the best one of the day.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. You sneak it out. Everybody's upset when you
guy
do.
Too,
I love a chicory coffee. Hey, the darker and more bold, the less. Like I'll cut normal coffee with a little dash of sugar, but if the harder and more strong it is, I don't. I just enjoy getting slapped across the face with it. Getting woken up good. But yeah, community coffee, I love it with just a little dash of sugar. Reminds me of dipping a beignet in it or something as I was a kid. So a little nostalgic.
Can't be mad at you for that.
No.
Not at all. D-Lo, you're going to be up to 89 degrees today. Cloudy skies early, followed by a clearing later in the day. Winds out of the south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Gulfport, few clouds early. Otherwise, mostly sunny. High of 83. Winds out of the southeast. Again, about 10 miles per hour. So breezy in coastal Mississippi today. And that's going to be great.
Hey, one thing, I didn't mean to, when we were talking about D-Lo, I hunt with a lot of folks from that area, and I always have throughout my life. And I've always heard a story that the name was derived from somebody. They would always say, "Well, it's too dang low over there," and so I'm curious if anyone from the area could give us the true story about how D-Lo is it too dang low? Is that how it got the name? Or I know there was another word used in there, but I am curious if that's the true story for D-Lo, one of my favorite places. You got the water park over there, too. I'm sure it's going to be popping during the summer.
That's what the sign on the highway tells me.
That's right,
anyway.
that's right.
D-Lo Water Park. Shortly thereafter, you passed what used to be the Collins Zoo.
Not far, yeah, it's on down there.
If you're making your way from Jackson to Hattiesburg, that's what you see.
Yeah, that's the hotbed of where my family was from. So that's kind of the neck of the woods. I knew every sign and every little thing all the way down to Hattiesburg, so.
On this day in 1863, American newspaper publisher William Randolph Hearst was born. He started the San Francisco Examiner and also the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, born in San Francisco. What about this guy, born in 1933? I know I didn't pick a solo song, but it's all right.
That's a good one.
You pick Willie and Merle together, and it's a good day. 1933. Tell him, Willie. Is he going to sing or not?
Someday.
There it is.
My friend was gonna keep you free and clean.
Willie Nelson, 92 years young, born in Abbott, Texas, on this day again in 1933.
Kind of interesting that he shares a birthday with the guy that actually did the smear campaign to make marijuana illegal in this country, William Randolph Hearst. Also very famous for the yellow journalism before that. So, but yeah, it's interesting that he shares a birthday with the guy that tried to eradicate his favorite hobby. So.
One of the all-time crooks was born on this day in 1938, Bernie Madoff, American fraudster and financier who committed the largest fraud in United States history, born in Queens, New York. Dale Earnhardt was born on this day in 1951, seven-time NASCAR Winston Cup Series champion, born in Kannapolis, North Carolina. Funny man, Jerry Seinfeld. Did you know that he was 71, or he's 71 years old today?
I didn't know it today
1954.
until I read that. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. I've seen them all 50 times.
A show about nothing.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in there about nothing, though.
Isn't that the truth?
Hey, man, don't leave out Daniel Day-Lewis, the world's greatest actor. And I have to agree with that. Yeah, I do. I mean, he's a great actor. I don't think I've ever watched him in something where he hadn't just been amazing. So, and he chooses roles so well. He'll just pick one here and there, then retire, and then do it again. But he's 68 today. Great actor.
Michelle Pfeiffer, born on this day in 1958. Scarface, Batman Returns, Hairspray. She was born in Santa Ana, California. The great Andre Agassi, 55 years old, born in 1970, an Olympic gold medalist. He won gold in the Atlanta Olympics in 1996, had 8 Grand Slam titles, born in Las Vegas. He shaved all his hair, but it used to be wild and woolly with the loud outfits.
Oh, yeah, it looked like he was in a hairband from the 80s there for a while.
Yeah, he did.
And I thought at one time, if I do remember correctly, he had dated somebody from Mississippi State, like a tennis player, before he got with, Steffi Graf or whoever his wife is now. But that was always a rumor back in the day. They'd say, see him on campus here and there. I'm like, really? Andre Agassi? That's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, you can't miss him either back then. And then all of a sudden he had no hair, so I wonder if that was a wig there for a bit, but I don't know. But
one
it was
of,
impressive.
If not, we'll get to her in just a second. Justin Thomas, born on this day in 1993, two-time PGA champ, won it in 2017, won it in 2022. He's won the Players' Championship as well, had a win just a couple of weeks ago on the PGA Tour. Born in Louisville, Kentucky, Justin Thomas, 32 years old today. On this day in 1967, one of the queens of soul, if not the queen of soul, Aretha Franklin released her single written by Otis Redding. It was the Billboard Song of the Year in 1967. Little R-E-S-P-E-C-T. That gets you going a little bit this morning, won't it?
Oh, yeah. Always. Aretha. Come on now.
Aretha Franklin. Respect, at least on this day in 1967. This day in 1986, one of the greatest athletes of all time was drafted number 1 by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His name, Bo Jackson. Heisman Trophy winner, and he was a two-sport guy. I also think the greatest poster
Yes.
When we were growing up, posters on the wall in kids' rooms were a big deal. The poster where he was wearing shoulder pads, football shoulder pads with no shirt, with a baseball bat draped across his shoulders with his arms kind of hanging over the baseball bat, chiseled the great Bo Jackson.
I had all the posters of Bo. He was my hero. I don't know if you can even debate he was the greatest athlete. When you watch a guy like that truck Bosworth and then retire him and then, run up a wall and catch home runs that should have been home runs and hitting balls 500. I mean, when I was at Auburn, they had a place marked in the super right field in like a whole building across a ditch over a bunch of pine trees. And there's a little place there. They said, yeah, that's where Bo Jackson hit a home run. It's like, really? You look back and you're like, man, that's 2 blocks down. That's what he was like, though. The dude was something else. My hero, Bo Jackson.
How about this? This might make you feel a little old. 1991. Well, we'll hold this one till we come back. We'll give you another song that was released, legendary song, released in 1991 that became the song of the year in 1992. Just getting started with you Tuesday morning. Sports coming up in just a little while. We got some news headlines coming up as well. We'll have you a Mississippi lottery update, couple of guests coming up, including our colleague Ricky Mathews, host of the Ricky Mathews Show. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mississippi, you're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Artists get inspiration from all kinds of places, and if you're writing music, you never know exactly where a song will originate.
Tell you a little story about an incident that happened on the road a couple of years ago when me and my band, the Strayhorns, were playing this little truck stop lounge up in Dawsville, Virginia, a place called Geraldine's, and we'd been there for 4 or 5 nights, playing those dance sets, and it'd been a long night, and I took a break, and I walked over to the jukebox. And Roger, my bass player, he was already over there reading the records, on the jukebox. And I leaned up on the corner of it, and one of the legs was broken off of it. And the jukebox kind of wobbling around, and Roger looked over at me and said,
"Don't rock the jukebox, I wanna hear some Jones, 'cause my heart ain't ready for the Rolling Stones. I don't feel like..."
First concert I ever remember going to was in Tad Smith Coliseum in 1991. It was the Randy Travis Digging Up Bones tour. And Alan Jackson, who was on his Don't Rock the Jukebox tour, opened for Randy Travis in the Tad Pad.
Nice.
How about that?
I loved Alan Jackson. Clint Black and Alan Jackson, they were probably my 2 favorites. But, how can you beat the country mullet and the nice mustache, cowboy hat? There's a T-top Corvette somewhere sitting in the background, big old truck. But, Alan Jackson, he was kind of the epitome of what you would think country music was supposed to be, really. And his music was fantastic.
Don't Rock the Jukebox, released on this day in 1991. It went on to be Song of the Year for both ASCAP and Billboard. A couple of other notes from this day. On this day in 1992, a jury acquitted Los Angeles Police Department officers on charges of excessive force in the beating of Rodney King. The decision sparked massive riots in the city of Los Angeles that went on for days. Over $1 billion in damage occurring in the city of Angels. There's an interesting note here. In 2018, the animated series The Simpsons surpassed the 635 episode count of Gunsmoke, the highest number of episodes of any series on television. The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah, that was like in college. You met up with all your buddies and watched The Simpsons on the night it came out. It was like 6 o'clock. You'd run, go get dinner, and you're like, "Oh, we got The Simpsons."
Yeah.
And you had to get there and had to watch it. It was must-see TV.
All right. Finally, full circle. Birthdays and on this day coming all together. 2 years ago today, On this day, 2023, country singer Willie Nelson hosted the first of 2 nights of his 90th birthday celebration concerts for himself at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles. Guest performers included Lyle Lovett, Neil Young, Snoop Dogg, George Strait, Roseanne Cash, Chris Christopherson, Norah Jones, Chris Stapleton, Beck, Eddie Brickell, Tony Jones, and Ziggy Marley, among others. What a couple of nights that was at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles.
That was a lineup. I mean, I wonder what a ticket for that ran you.
They were high.
Yeah,
they were high. That's a cool venue, too.
Never been.
I've never been. I've just looked at pictures of it. It's an outdoor amphitheater, and they've got kind of bleacher seating in the back, but it's like all loge seating down low. You got a table and 4 chairs around it. Really, really neat setup. Love to go to a concert there one day. All right, former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant has been tabbed by President Donald Trump to be part of a new group tasked with reforming and streamlining FEMA. Bryant has been a close ally of President Donald Trump, served as governor here in Mississippi 2012 to 2020. Trump acknowledged Bryant and 19 others' appointment on his Truth Social account, calling the group top experts in their field. The FEMA Review Council will be co-chaired by Homeland Security's Secretary Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth of the Department of Defense. Some other notable names on this committee: Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Tampa, Florida Mayor Jane Castor, Mark Cooper, former Chief of Staff for John Bel Edwards, the governor in Louisiana, Michael Whatley of the Republican National Committee, Glenn Youngkin, the Virginia governor, and Robert J. Fenton, who is a FEMA Region 9 administrator. Bryant weighed in on the appointment, writing on his social media accounts, "Honored to receive this appointment by President Donald J. Trump. Unfortunately, we've earned a lot of experience with natural disasters and recovery in Mississippi. Let's make America safe again." The release from the Department of Homeland Security said the FEMA Review Council is charged with streamlining operations and ensuring FEMA delivers rapid, efficient, and mission-focused relief to Americans in need. All the findings of the FEMA Review Council will be turned over to the president and will be put together on the existing ability of FEMA to capably and impartially address disasters. The creation of the FEMA Review Council and Bryant's role in it comes while Mississippi is waiting on a decision on federal aid applied for that the state applied for after 18 tornadoes tore through the state in mid-March, killing 7 and causing millions of dollars in damage. The White House last week, I believe it was, informed Arkansas that it would not be receiving federal funding for the same storm system. So we will cross our fingers and hope that it works out better for Mississippi than it did for Arkansas. A new Miss Mississippi's teen has been crowned, Avery McNair. She's a Simpson Academy student, and Miss Madison County teen is the latest to earn the prestigious title. She won it Sunday in Vicksburg. This was the 20th anniversary of the competition. There were 21 total teens competing for the crown in the River City. McNair came out on top. Her talent, among others, was piano playing, and she will now represent the state on a national level in vying for Miss America's teen. Got a $10,000 reward for winning it, and she's planning to go to Mississippi State after finishing high school at Simpson Academy. Man, there were a lot of Canadian election experts online last night. I don't know if you saw this or not. Canadians were projected at about midnight last night to keep the Liberal Party in power, entrusting Prime Minister Mark Carney to forge a new course for their struggling economy and stand up to President Trump. Carney's Liberals were set to win a 4th term in the national elections last night, according to Canadian broadcast networks. It wasn't clear whether the Liberals would win a majority of seats on a smaller scale that would require them to win support from other parties to govern.
You'd think like March 15th they'd give him a run here because, I mean, it wasn't long ago where he was put in power. So I didn't think there's a whole lot of mystery that they would give him another shot just to see what he could do.
Well, if you go back to January, though, it was Pierre Poilievre, I don't think I said that right, forgive me, who had a commanding lead. He had a 20-point lead in January over the Liberals when Justin Trudeau was still in charge. Carne is a 60-year-old former head of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, became prime minister when Justin Trudeau stepped down. And it's a pretty significant victory because Canada, we'll get into this later this morning, in terms of economic growth, GDP, Canada has been stagnant for basically 2 decades. Like zero growth. And their open borders and immigration issues, we focus on our immigration issues. Canada may not say it's an issue. Their immigrant population has gone from 5% to 15% over the last 20 years. And they're not creating anything. And so what did they do? They took the party that's been in charge for the last 4 terms and said, keep on going. And why did they do it? Largely to say, Donald Trump, you're not going to tell us what to do. Which is interesting because Donald Trump along the way said he'd be fine with Carney winning the election because he'd be easier to negotiate with. Views him as a wilting flower, I suppose.
Well, he's not a big fan of the banker, so with his time at Goldman Sachs, I'm sure that put a nice little bullseye on him. So
perhaps. Trudeau's resignation after a decade in power and Trump's return to the White House precipitated a reversal in fortunes for the Liberals under Carney, who said he was the best candidate to handle Trump and reshape an economy that is dependent on U.S. demand. Left-leaning politicians in Australia and the United Kingdom have also benefited from appearing to best embody opposition to Trump's plans. It took the United States an additional 4 years to know that it didn't want another term of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. We'll see how much longer it takes Canada to figure out that they don't want liberal leadership in their country. It was March 28th in a phone call with Trump when Carney said the president agreed to start talks after the election on a new economic and security deal between the North American neighbors. Carney has said, for his part, that Canada will boost military spending to ally some of the United States' criticism, but has established lines that cannot be crossed in talks, such as control of Canadian resources, changes to its language laws, agriculture policy, and sovereignty. Carney saying, we will not be the 51st state of the United States. We will be, Canada. Sports headlines, and there sure was a big one yesterday. That's coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Seabrook. Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Standing on the corner, looking for you.
Mississippi State has parted ways with its head baseball coach, Chris Lemonis. The announcement came yesterday from the athletics director, Zach Selman, and it comes as the Bulldogs are on pace to miss the postseason for the 3rd time in 4 years. This season, Mississippi State is 25-19 overall with a conference record of 7-14. Chris Lemonis was in his 7th season as the Bulldogs head coach. He was hired in the summer of 2018 during his time as the head coach, the top dog. He went 232 and 135, which included 3 trips to the NCAA baseball tournament, regional play, super regional play. 2 of those ended in Omaha at the College World Series in 2019. The Bulldogs set a school record with 52 wins in the regular season, well, overall. In 2021, Mississippi State won the national championship. They missed the postseason, though, in 22 and 23, going 9-21 in conference play in both of those seasons. Last year, Mississippi State returned to the postseason. They played in the Charlottesville Regional, made it to the regional final, but did not advance to a super regional. Zach Selman issued a statement that said, in part, a change in leadership is what's best for the future of Mississippi State baseball. We've not consistently met the standard of success that our university fans and student athletes expect and deserve. Thanks to Coach Lemonis for his work and the time he gave to our program, including a national championship in 2021. We appreciate his efforts and wish him and his family all the best moving forward. Mississippi State is the premier job in college baseball. The tradition, the facilities, the NIL offerings, and the fan base are all second to none. Dudy Noble is the best environment in the sport, period. Pitching coach Justin Parker, who was hired by Lemonis ahead of the 2024 season in his second year with the program, will serve as the interim head coach for the remainder of this year. Zach Selman said that a national search has begun to reel in the program's next head coach. Big news yesterday out of Starkville with 3 full weekends remaining in the regular season. And then the SEC baseball tournament. Mississippi State, to return to regional play this year, will have to make a pretty significant run in the final 3 weeks of the season. We got baseball today happening, including in Starkville. For the second time this season, Mississippi State will meet Memphis in midweek action on the Diamond. Tonight's contest slated for 6 p.m. at Dudy Noble. The Bulldogs got the better of a 5-3 matchup earlier this month back in Memphis on April 1st. Noah Sullivan and Hunter Hines both homered in the game. Ryan McPherson got the win in relief. Noah Sullivan will start in that game once again tonight for Mississippi State, just like he did back at the beginning of the month. Number 23 Ole Miss is hosting Austin Peay this evening at Swayze Field. It's the final home game for the Rebels before they begin a 2-week road stretch. Ole Miss took 2 of 3 from Vanderbilt this past weekend for their 4th conference series win of the season, their first series victory against a top 10 opponent. Ole Miss has now won 30 or more games for the first time since 2022, and the 21st time under head coach Mike Bianco. Their 4 SEC series wins this year are the most that they have won in a season since 2022, and the 4 series wins matches the combined total of the last 2 years. Right-hander Cade Townsend gets the start tonight for Ole Miss against Austin Peay. He's 1-0 on the year. And it's going to be home sweet home for the next couple of weeks for the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. Returning home to Pete Taylor Park for the first of 7 straight home games as New Orleans rolls into town tonight at Pete Taylor Park and Hill Denson Field. 6 o'clock first pitch. This is the final non-conference game of the year for the Golden Eagles. They are 31-13, and they are riding a 5-game winning streak. Junior Ben Higdon has been the hottest Golden Eagle as of late. How about this, Lance? Over the last 5 games, Higdon is hitting .545 with 5 doubles, 3 home runs, and he's driven in 4. Led Southern Miss this weekend to a 3-game sweep of Appalachian State in Boone, North Carolina. He had 8 hits, and then we talked about it yesterday. Nick Monaster continues in his groove. An 11-game hitting streak. That's the best of his career. In the last 11 games, Nick Monaster is hitting .463. He scored 17 runs, has 9 home runs, and has driven in 28. That's a heater. Yeah,
and you got Cook at the beginning of that lineup that keeps getting on, and then Carson Pato. I mean, they've got a lineup there in the top 4 or 5 that are really difficult to handle. You get those 5 guys playing ball at the same time, that team is going to be tough to handle by anyone. All of them can hit. I mean, I just love watching the Southern Miss guys hit. They know what they're doing. They're confident. They take a hack. And then, you know, on the other side, they run the bases well. They play good defense, too. And you know how that – get all that coming together with a little pitching. And you add that pitching, boy, it makes you difficult.
Mm-hmm. So, Southern Miss trying to make a run toward hosting as well. Visited yesterday afternoon on Sports Talk Mississippi with Christian Ostrander, head coach of the Golden Eagles. And I asked him, I was like, you know, you've got a handful of games left. You put yourself in a good position. What's the message to your team? And he did the coach speak thing, 1 game at a time, focus on what's next. We've got a pretty fun finish to the regular season. After the game tonight with UNO, 3-game series this weekend in Hattiesburg with Arkansas State, 3-game series at home with the Cajuns, the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana, and then they will finish it up on the road with somewhat of a rival, Troy, in the final 3 games of the regular season. On3 Sports has put out its post-spring football practice top 25. in fairness, it is as useless as the paper on which it is written or the computer on which it is typed, but it does give us something to talk about as we look toward the fall, which will get here in the blink of an eye. The post-spring top 25 ranks Texas as the number one team in the country, followed by Notre Dame, Clemson, Penn State, and Ohio State in the top 5. So only one SEC team in the post-spring top 25. Then you've got, from the SEC, Alabama at 7, Georgia at 8, Florida at 10, South Carolina at 12, Auburn at 13. Okay. LSU checking in at 15. Ole Miss predicted at number 19. About Ole Miss, they write, the Rebels probably missed a golden opportunity last year. That doesn't mean the window is closed. Quarterback Austin Simmons might be the best new starter this year in the SEC, and if he is, then I have Ole Miss too low. Lane Kiffin has raised the floor for the Rebels so much that this kind of preseason ranking probably feels like a disappointment. It would have felt like a compliment for most of the program's history, but if this is where your team is when it's rebuilding, then your program is in a very healthy place. Tennessee is in the preseason top 25 at number 21. Those are the teams from the SEC ranked in the preseason. Missouri just missing this preseason top 25 from On 3 Sports.
Hey, man, I got to go back and reverse a second because I'm pulling for Missouri in baseball to lose them all. And they could possibly do that, Richard. Texas A&M, Mississippi State are on the – and Georgia, that's what they have remaining. So, with the movement over there at State and the coach – being removed, that's going to be interesting to see because that's who Missouri finishes the season with is Mississippi State. So I really would like to see him pull the offer, but that's me. My motto, get better, man. You shouldn't have rolled that junk out there. That's
30.
That's what I hope so, man. That would be great.
It's potential.
Oh.
It is on the bingo card at this point for the Missouri Tigers.
Like I said, A&M, Georgia. Well, you got Georgia, A&M, and Mississippi State all finishing up. All three, teams that could really drill them. So that it's possible, guys. It's possible.
Yeah, you're right. We'll see where that goes. They had a chance against Alabama.
They did.
They were up 5-0 in that game and ended up getting beat 7-5 in the first game of the series, and then they got boat raced over the next couple.
And they got number 25 Kansas tonight, so they get a little warm up against them before they got Georgia. So,
C-Spire text line: why didn't Arch Manning start last year?
They had to get yours drafted.
Yeah. Steve Sarkisian was asked yesterday about what are you going to do if Arch gets drafted next year. They'll probably roll out another 5-star quarterback.
Yeah.
He said it'll be a good problem to have, and we'll hopefully there will be a decision for Arch to make on January 21st of next year. He said because that means we will have played for a long time and possibly will have won a national championship. So we'll see where that one goes. We got a Mississippi lottery update coming up for you. Guests this morning. Ricky Mathews is going to join us. He's host of the Ricky Mathews Show and SuperTalk Outdoors. We'll talk with him a little bit about the Bonnet Carre spillway, the impact that it could have on coastal Mississippi, both in terms of economics and also with the outdoors. Looking forward to that conversation. Also, Brian Welton will join us this morning. He's the CEO of Baptist Hospital North Mississippi, recently named one of America's best 250 hospitals by Healthgrades. We'll talk to him about that recognition, how Baptist got there, and about some of the other challenges that are happening within the healthcare community. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to be with you on what is going to be a gorgeous Tuesday in the Magnolia State.
Get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
jackpot winner in Lotto America last night. The estimated jackpot for tomorrow night's drawing up to $31,780,000 with an estimated cash value of about $14.5 million. The numbers from last night's drawing, 18, 19, 32, 44, and 50. The star ball was 10, and the all-star bonus multiplier was 5. No Powerball jackpot winner last night. Nobody wanted to win that measly $20 million jackpot. Wanted to see it grow just a little bit. I'm sure there are lots of people that would have been more than happy to win that $20 million jackpot last night. The estimated jackpot for tomorrow night, Wednesday, April 30th, is $30 million. Cash value of $14 million. Numbers from yesterday, 26, 43, 51, 56, 60. The Powerball was 24. And the power play multiplier was 4.
Double play numbers from the Monday, April 28th drawing, 11, 13, 39, 48, 61. Powerball of 3. Mega Millions, no jackpot winner yet. And the estimated jackpot for tonight, $70 million. Estimated cash value, $31.8 million. Numbers from Friday, 38, 40, 60, 62, 70. Mega Ball of 9.
No jackpot winner on the Mississippi Match 5. Tonight's jackpot, $165,000. Monday night's drawing, 4, 5, 7, 29, 35.
Well, the Monday cash $3,500 midday drawing, 439. Evening number 040. Cash for $5,000 midday, 0074. Evening 2497. Fireball was 0 and a cash pop of 2 in the midday, with your evening fireball of 8 and a cash pop of 6.
The 6th drawing in the Pink Panther Diamond Tripler bonus promotion takes place this Thursday, May 1st. The Mississippi Lottery is awarding cash prizes of $15,000, $10,000, $5,000, and they're going to throw in a couple of $100 gift cards. Winning cities will be announced exclusively to Mississippi Lottery insiders first, followed by a public release on social media and online at mslottery.com. The Mississippi Lottery is coming to a town near you to show off your local lottery retailers. Follow the Mississippi Lottery on Facebook and tune in today at 10 a.m. to see the team on the road at a special spot in Picayune. On the last Tuesday of each month, the lottery gets on the road to showcase local retailers, sharing big wins and the latest lottery news. Don't miss out. Follow the Mississippi Lottery on Facebook and tune in at 10 a.m. this morning.
I would say after scanning through the winners and doing this as long as I have, Shibuda, I'm coming to visit y'all. Apparently, people just win over there. I don't care what gas station or where you are.
Rake
you
cash.
rake it in, man. I don't know how many people live there, but it's very well represented in the lottery winners. Every week we get somebody, it seems like. So I digress.
Shibuda woman won $845 on a ticket for Midway Service Center in Shibuda. Decatur band $1,200 on a ticket from A&A 4 Indicator. The Iberville woman $1,350 on a ticket from Keith Superstore. A Saltillo player won $1,350 on a ticket from Shannon Food Mart. A Canton woman $1,350 on a ticket from Anita. Is that a friend or
Anita,
is that a place?
Yeah, got her own kiosk store maybe.
Jackson man won $2,700 on a ticket from Briar's Food Mart in Clinton. A Pearl man won $2,700 on a ticket from Quick Fill in Richland. And a Hazelhurst woman, $3,431 on a ticket from Sweet Peas 76 in Hazelhurst.
We had some cash pop winners. A Columbia woman won $1,000 on a ticket from the TG Mart number one in Columbia. Excuse me there. A little frog in the throat, huh? A Starkville woman won $1,000 on a ticket from the Sprint Mart 4140 in Starkville. And guess what? A Shibuda woman won $3,500 using 2 tickets at the Texaco Food Mart and the Minute Mart in Quitman. So there you go.
Another one from Shibuda in Ocean Springs, man, $800 on a ticket from Quick Mart. Charleston man, $1,000 on a ticket from Circle K. On a $20,000 power shot scratch off, a Madison man cashed in $2,000 on a ticket from Hoy Road Chevron in Madison. And on the $5 super cash word scratch off, a Carthage woman raking in $5,000 on a ticket from Nance's Northside Shortstop in Philadelphia. Might be headed there later today.
Give it a run, man. You got to head to Philadelphia today, right?
That's the point. I'm headed to Philadelphia later today.
Go by and see some of my peoples. I love the little cemetery there because I get to go by and see all the family. That's where my dad's side of the family's from, outside of Philadelphia in House, Mississippi. And I love going through there. And also, you got to go to the Williams store. Come on, man.
Of course.
It's a
SuperTalk Mississippi will be live at the Pearl River Resort in Philadelphia tomorrow as we highlight the incredible partnership between Mississippi Farm Bureau and the Mississippi Food Network through their Farmers Feeding the Hungry initiative. Mornings with Richard Cross will be there. That's us. Middays with Gerard Gibbert, Sports Talk Mississippi, Thunder and Lightning live, all going to be there, bringing you a day of inspiration, information, and celebration. All of that coming up tomorrow right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. We look forward to being with you. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. 1 hour in the books on this Tuesday morning. Much to discuss in the 7 o'clock hour. Today marks the 100th day of Trump 2.0. What has he done? What hasn't he done? What has he said he is still going to do? We'll get to that when we come back with you. Good morning, Mississippi. This is MRC. News is next.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Keeping Mississippi in the know, one morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Fact-checking and correcting where errors were made. Appreciate you keeping me honest. Rain Forest says Edie Brickell is Paul Simon's wife. Not pronounced like a man's name. That's Edie, not Eddie.
It's Edie. That's right.
Good to know. Glad that we got that right now. And also there was the pronunciation that I butchered. Knew it when I did it. Poliev is the Canadian dude that lost. If you lose, do I really need to know how to pronounce your last name?
Exactly.
Winners get the correct pronunciation treatment, and losers, well, they go back to eating apples and making fun of reporters for bad questions.
Counting moose, you know.
Meese or moose?
Meese. I don't know. They got 1 million of them. I know that. You know, the funny thing about Canada, they have like 1 million moose, whatever.
It's moose. I'm just
kidding. They only have 72,000 elk, though. I mean, like, what is their problem with elk? America's got millions of elk.
Yeah.
Hey, and another thing that was interesting about the election, when asked, different age groups, what were the most important factors for why they voted the way they did, the 60 and over group was the only one that was upset about Trump. Oh, we're voting because we got to deal with Trump. So the statistics, as they want to tell you, is they were motivated by all this Trump stuff. Really, the only group that showed any real worry was the 60 plus. Everybody else was, well below anything.
And apparently, they all voted.
Yeah, I think the 60 plus must have. But it was just interesting how skewed the media can make it out to be.
Oh yeah.
When in reality, when you look at the numbers and facts, nobody really cared but the 60-plus-year-olds about Donald Trump.
It does sound like there are most Canadians that grew weary of the 51st state, come be, Governor Trudeau, all of that. But, I mean...
Well, he got rid of Trudeau for them, so...
He did. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll... You're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today. The number is 601-206-7966 or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. So today marks day number 100 in the Trump administration. The Team Trump is kicking off, or yesterday they kicked off a week-long celebration of the first 100 days in office, focusing primarily on his border crackdown, an area of strength for Trump in his second stint in the White House. The yard signs that you saw out yesterday were predictably a source of controversy. Yard signs with mugshots of immigrants who have been accused of crimes like rape and murder were posted across the White House lawn, positioned so that they would be in the backdrop of television broadcasts outside the West Wing. Tom Homan, you know Tom, tough talking Tom Homan, Trump's top border advisor, told reporters that there has been unprecedented success on the border effort, and we're going to keep doing it full speed ahead. There were those in the Trump administration that said, hey, legacy media, mainstream media, left-leaning media, if you're not going to cover these deportations and arrests of violent illegals, then we're going to make it where you can't not cover them. And you know what CNN and MSNBC said? They said, au contraire, Trump administration, we will blur out the faces of the pictures in the camera shots behind. Now, of course, they did that to protect the privacy of those accused of these crimes. Yep, they sure did. And Jake Tapper at CNN had a really thoughtful and heartfelt explanation for why CNN did what it did. They were protecting you and said they would reverse course if necessary.
100-day mark with a full court press on the issue of illegal immigration, and they really don't want you to miss it. So they subtly and tastefully deck the White House North Lawn with dozens of yard signs featuring photos of people that the Trump administration claims are in the country illegally, each poster saying arrested and listing the alleged offensive with which they have been charged. CNN's working to confirm the identities and if there are actual allegations against these people. Until then, we are blurring their identities.
Yes, I'm sure that there is a large team within the CNN headquarters actively working to identify these people and figure out if they actually committed crimes. And I'm sure that if they find out that these signs are true, that these are actually illegals and criminals and rapists and murderers and violent offenders, that they will come back and they will remove the blur. And they will make sure that you get a good, crystal clear picture of these people who are in our country when they are not supposed to be. I am sure, based on the words of Jake Tapper, that is exactly the process that is happening within the newsrooms of CNN, devoting a lot of resources to making sure those who need to be protected are protected. Don't you think? Message on the C Spire text line, and I agree with you. So there's an illegal charge with rape in Madison, needs to be deported. Yep. Salvadoran man has been sentenced to 25 years in prison for raping a helpless woman at a Madison restaurant in early 2025. 37-year-old Jose Rigoberta Mejia Cubillas was arrested after Madison police received a call regarding an unidentified female who had been assaulted at Fernando's restaurant on Colony Crossing Way. The arrest of Mejia Cubillas led to further investigation of employees at the restaurant under suspicion of illegal immigrants working at the establishment. 7 others were arrested after lacking proper documentation. Are you familiar with Cintco? Jose Rigoberta Mejia Cubillas?
No.
If there's anything we can do about it, can we, I don't mind some of our state tax dollars going to pay for his one-way ticket. We don't even have to have the feds handle it.
I'm good with that. Hey, you wonder what's changed. I mean, Obama ran under immigration reform. He deported 5 million or more in the first term. Illegals.
But seriously, why are we putting this guy in prison in the United States for 25 years?
Exactly.
Send him home or somewhere else.
And then you got Michelle Obama yesterday letting you know how the only thing that she's really worried about today, Richard, is immigration and these immigrants and deportations.
Keeping her awake at night, she said. Can't sleep at night.
Can't sleep.
So focused on all of these deportations, losing sight of the fact that her husband deported 3 million illegals while he was in office.
What has
That would
changed?
be between the years of 2008 and 2016. Thomas asked a question on the C Spire text line, and I have no problem with this question. Should the restaurant owner be held civilly liable since he knowingly hired an illegal alien?
I mean, I think that's how you have to start cracking down. You got to disincentivize poor behavior. And if you're providing employment for people that shouldn't be here, I think that you probably ought to disincentivize that. If you want them to go home, if they don't have a job, they're not going to be hanging around. I mean, if you want immigration illegal reform, don't give them jobs, and they won't come here.
Dave says, what else should happen in these businesses? Do they need to be fined to the hilt for hiring these illegal people that are in our country? I mean, it's a conversation that is reasonable.
Why would you bust a place like, and I'm going to mention this because it's had it a couple of times here in central Mississippi, a place called Howard Industries that has been busted a few times over the last 15 years, but, and with hundreds of them. So, but they're okay to bust, but not restaurants and places like that. So why is there a favored nation status for certain things, but not for other things when it comes to enforcing this stuff?
Dave says we are safer if he's in our prison. Stop and think about this. He's been deported once already back in 2010, and he got to come back. Think about that.
Put a chip in him.
Two things. One, he's not coming back under this administration. And two, this prison sentence gets commuted to Centco in El Salvador. Period. If a contractor hires an illegal who takes drunk on a Saturday night and kills my family in a car crash, shouldn't that construction company be held liable? I mean, Thomas, I don't know the law. I don't know about liability for like on the clock versus off the clock.
Call the Schwartz Hour on Mondays. We'll tell you the answer to that one.
Yeah. But look, then there's a question that hits really close to home also. Right? I mean, if you have people that are performing services for you as an individual, you're not actually employing them on like a W-2 basis. If you're paying them for services, does that mean you individually should be held liable? Someone that is painting or mowing or gardening or cleaning? Like where's the line? Where do you draw the line? Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks for joining us today. Ricky Mathews will be along in the next segment of the show. We're going to talk more about the Bonnet Carre spillway and what is happening coastal Mississippi, what the effects of that could be if that Louisiana spillway floodgates are opened, where the river is right now, and how likely that is. We talked about it yesterday. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann sent a letter to the Army Corps of Engineers and copied a whole bunch of people on it in positions of power to make everybody aware, demanding that other options be explored before opening those floodgates. We'll get into that conversation with Ricky coming up in just a little bit. Never actually made it to what we intended to talk about just a minute ago, and that's the first 100 days of Trump and what he promised, what he's done, and what he said he was going to do, what the follow-through rate is. At the top of the list is immigration, but one of the things that Donald Trump promised was to be a president that was going to lower the prices of everyday items. Inflation has been falling since a peak of 9.1% in 2022. In January, it was 3%. In March, it closed at 2.4%. Trump boasted we already solved inflation. The Federal Reserve warned that the president's tariff plans will most likely lead to higher prices by taxing foreign imports. The AP writes that it's unlikely that Trump will manage to pay off all our debt. Well, go figure. It's $36 trillion. His plans for tax cuts would reduce revenue to cover the country's bills. Besides, he made a similar pledge in 2016, they write, and then the national debt ballooned during his first presidency. Yeah, I feel like there was a contributing factor to the ballooning of the debt. Probably would have gone up regardless, but it feels like there was a global event that led to some pretty major spending, round about March, April of 2020, if I remember correctly. Not crazy, right? Wasn't there that pandemic thing?
It happened.
It happened. As much as we would love to just block that out from our memory in our entirety. So what about this whole, he promised to be a price dropper thing, and all they do is they pick one number, right? They pick inflation as the number. And they say, well, with tariffs, prices are going up. Okay. And it may have a really significant effect. Saw a story a little while ago that Amazon is going to start putting tariff pricing in their breakdown. So if you buy a widget that costs $8 and there's an $8 tariff on it, plus sales tax, then you're going to get an itemized breakdown of what you're paying and what each of them are going to. I appreciate the transparency. I'm wondering who it was that came up with that idea.
Why don't you let me know whose salaries I'm paying for, too, while you're at it, since, you're being an accountant all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question that they want to highlight, hey, this is what you are paying because of tariffs. But do you remember all the outrage in November and October about $7 for a dozen eggs? If you could find eggs on the shelves in the grocery store, they don't cost that anymore. Eggs have gone down. Gas is cheaper than it was. There are other things that cost less. I mean, that's what people were talking about. The price at the pump and cost of a dozen eggs. It's less expensive than it was a few months ago. The AP doesn't really highlight that in their story. Trump has very clearly made progress on illegal immigration. That was the signature promise in his campaign. The number of people trying to cross illegally into the United States from Mexico has gone from, let's see here, December of 2023, almost 250,000 people. February of this year, 8,346. March, 7,181. Now, this is a fascinating accounting spin that the AP puts on the border crossing numbers. They write, it's unclear whether Trump is matching Biden's aggressive deportation record last year. The numbers are not yet in. They point to border crossings going down from December of 23 to December of 24. Why would that be?
Election time.
Could it have been because it was an election year? Where do you think border crossing numbers would be in March of 2024 if Kamala Harris had won the presidency?
Oh, the whole wall would have been disassembled by now. She'd have had every one of those illegals pulling it down.
North of 7,200?
Oh, she'd have had that many pulling the wall down.
You know, there are just let's just call it like it is. There are a lot of Republicans who are questioning their vote for Trump. There are. Now, they're not as many as some polling data or some media outlets would like you to believe. Because that's one of the questions. Do you regret your vote? And it's like they've been shocked that the answers have been overwhelmingly no. But for those that are saying, you know what, this isn't what I signed up for, I wish I had not voted for Donald Trump. Okay, in a vacuum. All right? So that answer in a vacuum is fine. I wish I hadn't voted for Donald Trump. But what would that have looked like in practice? What if you had gotten 4 more years of Joe Biden on steroids? Because don't let there be any confusion in your mind. What you were going to get from Kamala Harris would have been Joe Biden on steroids. Her policies would have made Joe Biden look conservative. The accounting quirk, though, that's going on with border crossings is the Biden administration was counting people being turned away at the border as deportations. It was a little trick to make themselves look good on a spreadsheet.
Creative accounting, huh?
There are only 7,000 border crossings in the last month under the Trump administration, and the north of 100,000 deportations are actual people being removed from the United States. And Caroline Leavitt said yesterday that this administration is in, quote, the beginning stages of carrying out the largest deportation campaign in American history, close quote. Trump promised to slash energy bills on the campaign trail. 100 days into his presidency, has he done that? Promised to reduce energy costs by half to 3/4 in 12 to 18 months. Says if it doesn't work out, you'll say, oh, well, I voted for him and he still got it down a lot. Other times he said, under my plan, we will cut energy and electricity prices in half. Said that at a rally in North Carolina back in September. Does gas cost less? Yeah. That's our biggest measure, right, of energy consumption. I mean, you can look at electric bills, you can look at natural gas consumption. There are other ways, but like the easiest way that we look at does energy cost less? It's what you spend at the pump. And then there are the tariffs. And it is very much a wait and see. Very much a wait and see. There is a press briefing that begins right now in Washington, in which Caroline Leavitt and Scott Bessent are together. And Bessent had some really, really interesting quotes about China yesterday. We'll get to those later in the show this morning. Trump promised during the campaign season to end the war quickly between Russia and Ukraine. I don't think that has gone as quickly as anybody would have liked. All signs point to the fact that there is progress. It has not ended yet. Donald Trump would be quick to remind you, though, that the war would never have started in the first place if he had been in August. And then finally, the ambitious tax cuts that Donald Trump has promised, they're in the works. Get word from Scott Bessent and the House yesterday that they are getting closer and closer to a comprehensive tax reform bill. We'll see how that plays out. Ricky Mathews joins us coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the
of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. The Bonnet Carre spillway was built
as a reaction to the massive floods of 1927 and ultimately was designed to protect low-lying New Orleans from devastating floodwaters. It is not used on an annual basis. In fact, it's been 5 years since the 500-pound wooden pins have been removed from the 1.5 mile wide structure to allow water to come out. When that did last happen, though, there was tons of water that came into the Mississippi Sound, and the threat of the Bonnet Carre being used this year prompted a letter from Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann to the Army Corps of Engineers director in the New Orleans district, and many others were copied on that letter. So let's learn a little bit more about Bonnet Carre, the history of it, the impact that it could have on the Mississippi Sound and coastal Mississippi writ large. Ricky Mathews joins us right now. He is host of the Ricky Mathews Show right here on SuperTalk Mississippi and also of SuperTalk Outdoors. Always good to see you. Good morning, Ricky.
Good morning, Richard. Good to see you, my friend.
I appreciate you joining me. You have worked in the media industry in both coastal Mississippi and the New Orleans area with the Times-Picayune for a long time. I thought of you immediately because of your love for the outdoors when I was reading this story and the letter that the Lieutenant Governor sent about the Bonnet Carre. Give us like the Reader's Digest version, a condensed Reader's Digest version of the Bonnet Carre and what it has meant for New Orleans, for South Louisiana, and also for Mississippi.
Yeah, I think, as you pointed out, the 1927, the Great Flood of 1927 created what is essentially, as you pointed, this 1.5 mile structure called the Bonnet Carre Spillway. People drive across it going from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. You may not realize what you're driving across, but it was made to essentially protect the levee system of New Orleans and has worked extremely well in that regard. But unfortunately, the Mississippi Sound is the sacrificial lamb. So all that fresh water coming from so many states and even Canadian provinces full of polluted water and over-nutrification from farms, et cetera, and freshwater flood into Lake Pontchartrain, into Lake Borgne, and eventually into the Mississippi Sound. And that's not meant to be there. The Mississippi Sound is a semi-enclosed estuarine complex that is not meant to have all that water rushing into it. And, I tell you, what's interesting, Richard, is I got calls over the weekend from charter boat captains, and I talked about this yesterday on my show. What's about to happen is not what happened in 2019. 2019, It was open for 123 days. That's not the case this time. And so I think a lot of people are putting the 2019 frame on what's about to happen. If it does happen, we'll know today or tomorrow maybe, that it's going to be the kind of gut punch we got in 2019, and we're not expecting that.
So 8 days ago, on April 21st, that was the point at which waters actually reached the spillway. And there were officials that said they couldn't test to make sure that it was operational the way it was supposed to be until water actually was against the spillway. They opened that up, and I think that's kind of what's prompted the outrage. We're at about the time in the next day or two where they're looking at the crest of the river. I think 16.5 feet I read is the height at which they're concerned. So what's going to happen in the next couple of days? Are they going to open the Bonnet Carre?
Well, Jay Grimes, in fact, I knew Jay Grimes when I worked in Alabama. In fact, he's a climatologist for Louisiana, and he says it's relative certainty that it will have to open, but for a very short period of time. What they did is what you're referring to is they do a test opening to get ready, and then they wait till the cubic yards per second or cubic gallons per second or whatever the phrases they use gets to a certain level, and then they open it. And they're only expecting 10 to 14 days and only a few of the bays, not a full scale opening. Listen, a tremendous amount of damage happened in 2019, and it prompted a Mississippi Sound coalition. It prompted state leaders and federal leaders to all get involved and say, wait a minute, Mississippi doesn't even have a voice in this discussion. At least now we have a voice in the discussion. They have to consider the environmental impact. There's another spillway up the river from there called the Morganza, right? And it's not open. There are lots of theories about it. People speaking out who live in the downstream areas of that, saying we don't want that, just like we don't want it. And there's also concerns about the stability of the Morganza. So what we've learned, though, is that there's maybe some other things that they can do. And, so we're having important conversations about it. But the most important message right now is that this will not be 2019. We're not seeing nearly the volume of water or anything like that. And the fishing right now on the Mississippi Gulf Coast is as good as it's been in a long time. And the water at the Berry Islands is crystal clear. It's beautiful. And even if they open it for a short period of time, at least for saltwater fishing like speckled trout and redfish, it actually may push some of the redfish and specks from places like Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Bourne into the Mississippi Sound. Now, I don't want to minimize the impact on the oyster industry and the issues with the bottlenose dolphins, et cetera. That's a big issue, and we're right to stay focused on it. But we this will not be 2019. This will not be the gut punch of 2019 unless something changes dramatically.
So with a lot of the backwaters in South Louisiana, they're described as brackish. It's that mix of fresh water and salt water. It's not the full concentration that you get if you go on vacation to, Gulf Shores, or you go to Destin or somewhere like that, and the salt content just takes your breath away. What is the content of the Mississippi Sound? Is it full on salt water? Is it described as brackish?
No. The Mississippi Sound is salt water.
Okay.
It's an amazing estuarine complex. Now, look, when there's heavy rain, obviously, coming from Biloxi Bay and other tributaries, you'll see it turn brackish for a period of time. But as a general rule, when you don't have the heavy rains, or you don't have, for example, a Bonnet Carre spillway, it's quite salty. And it can be, man, let me tell you, Richard, like right now, if you go to Cat Island, for example, or Ship Island, it feels like Key West. The water is so clear and so beautiful, and the fishing is so good. It literally feels like Gulf Shores or Destin, or in some cases Key West. We're very lucky, but because of the influx of the rivers, or the outflow of the rivers during heavy rain events, you'll see that fluctuate from time to time.
So is the biggest concern as it pertains to the Mississippi Sound, is it the fresh water that's coming in from the river, or is it all the other stuff that is mixed in with the fresh water, or is it a combination of the two?
Oh, it's definitely both. But, you think about it, I was on the Gulf of Mexico Advisory Committee at one point, and we used to say 26 states, contiguous states, but I think they're saying 31 these days. And Canadian provinces all flow into the Mississippi River. So imagine the pesticides and fertilizer and, hog farms and you name it, and the fresh water all flowing in. None of it's good.
Yeah. Does the economic impact of flooding in South Louisiana so far outweigh the economic impact of the Mississippi Sound that's the reason that there seems to be an imbalance?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, look, just go back to Hurricane Katrina. When you think what happened to the levee system in New Orleans and how bad it was, that wasn't even nearly the worst case scenario. Think about that for a second. It could have been so much worse. So protecting the levee system in New Orleans is critical. And look, we talk about this all the time. Gulf Coast we're related. We're all cousins. We're part of the greater New Orleans metro complex. Let's put it that way. After Katrina, we often said this, that in order for Mississippi coast to survive and to recover, New Orleans has to recover. So we didn't, the media sort of wanted to pit Mississippi against Louisiana. Oftentimes they didn't even see Mississippi. In fact, one time at one of our headlines, the Sun Herald said Mississippi's invisible coast. But the New Orleans region, for so many reasons, is really important. And the city of New Orleans in particular, we can't have the worst case scenario happen there. So the Great Flood of 1927, they're guarding against another occurrence like the plague. You can imagine how difficult that would be if the actual worst case scenario were to happen. We can't allow that to happen. So, but it can't just be the Bonnet Carre spillway. There has to be a combination of things that we enact. So that's where the conversations are happening now. Thank goodness.
You good to hang with me for a couple more minutes?
Sure, be happy to.
We're going to visit with Ricky Mathews, continue the conversation on the other side. He is host of the Ricky Mathews Show and also Mississippi Outdoors right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. You know, if you walk around in New York City and you look up, you can't help but marvel at the architectural and engineering feat that some of those buildings are. If you look at pictures or you've seen in person the Bonnet Carre spillway, kind of falls into that exact same category. It is an absolutely engineering marvel. Talk a little bit more about that and some of the other things that are happening in coastal Mississippi with Ricky Mathews when we come back with you to wrap up the 7 o'clock hour. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. We're back right after this.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
ICC is a ticking on down the line. Well, I'm a little overweight and my logbook's way behind. But nothing bothers me tonight. I can dodge all the scales all right. 6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight.
Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning, next last day of the month of April. Told you earlier there was a relatively early press briefing in D.C. this morning. Caroline Leavitt, Scott Bessent, and others from the cabinet involved with this, including this note, Ricky. The Department of the Interior just announced a new offshore drilling policy that will boost oil production in the Gulf of America by 100,000 barrels per day. We know cutting regulations leads to lower costs and higher growth. The mass deregulation effort by the administration will help usher in the golden age of America. Oil production in the Gulf. We know that that is a very real thing. It's something that is important for the refineries on the Gulf Coast, such a big part of the economy in coastal Mississippi.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, it is. I mean, and think about just the economy that supports the industry. How coastal Mississippi is connected to that. I just can't tell you how important it is. And we've got to. We should have our foot on the pedal, not taking our foot off the pedal. You know, look, I've had lots of conversations about this. I'm sure you have as well, as it relates to what the Biden administration was doing as it related to energy policy and trying to push EV cars, et cetera. That's not being realistic at all, given that we're an oil economy. And the opportunity for us as we go forward, as we really focus on not just drill, baby, drill, but really the role that coastal Mississippi in particular plays. When you look at the oil industry off our coast, when you look at the importance of this strategically important, I mean, listen, Chevron refinery is not just important to this state and this region, but it's important to the United States. Mm-hmm. And we saw that after Hurricane Katrina when it was down for a very short period of time. Our gas prices are lower as a result of it. But what they're doing, the amount of oil that's coming into that refinery, Richard, to really appreciate it, you need to go out and go fishing with us someday. And look at the number.
Invitation accepted if I can bring my son with me.
Oh, I'd love to have you come join us. And we will show you the oil tankers lined up trying to get into the port of Pascagoula to unload. It is an unbelievable machine that we have here in coastal Mississippi around that.
I want to ask you about something because you and I have had this conversation before. I feel like the Mississippi Gulf Coast, coastal Mississippi as you refer to it, is more connected with the rest of Mississippi than maybe historically it has been. But it's still a long way from Oxford or New Albany or Iuka to Gulfport or Pascagoula. And so I feel like there's almost a disconnect in people in the northern part of the state, and I'm painting with a really broad brush here, Ingalls, shipbuilding, refineries, and they're like, oh yeah, that's down in the southern part of the state of Mississippi, right there on the edge. Can you, in a minute, help us understand what the actual economic impact is, the shipbuilding industry and the refinery industry that is part of our state's economy that's so incredibly important?
Yeah, I actually wrote a column about it recently, but in a nutshell, about 15% of the state's population is down here. Only 15% when in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
But 25% of the revenue for our state is in coastal Mississippi. So when you have Stennis Space Center on one side as a bookend, and then Chevron and Ingalls and Bollinger on the other side as a bookend, and then all the hospitality and gaming that's taking place in the middle. Listen, there are 87,000 direct and indirect jobs reliant on government. I mean, that's military, shipbuilding, Stennis Space Center, et cetera. And then gaming. Those two together. In fact, I've been pressing a lot recently on the need to diversify. Take a few cards out of the playbook from places like the Golden Triangle, and let's go build a regional economic alliance, not in lieu of the others. The other groups in the coast counties have to do what they do from an economic development point of view, but get surrounded around the big stuff. Go build a mega site, and let's get more aggressive about diversifying coastal Mississippi's economy. It's important to the entire state of Mississippi that we not only succeed and keep this machine running, but that we grow. We're a $1.6 billion gaming market now. What would it look like to be a $2 billion gaming market? That's where our heads have to be. Yeah. And I've been focused on bringing awareness to this for the rest of Mississippi, that if we're not doing well, the rest of Mississippi is not doing well. So goes coastal Mississippi, so goes the rest of the state.
You mentioned the Golden Triangle, and I'm such like a cheerleader, I guess, for what Joe Max and that multi-county alliance has been able to do. And it feels like something that if local leaders are willing to do it, could be replicated in other parts of the state. And I think it is an extremely important conversation.
Joe Max, I mean, listen, talking about a guy who's easy to underestimate on first blush.
No doubt.
But he goes up to Harvard. He goes to Harvard every year and does case studies. Think about this for a minute. But, man, they're betting on the come. They've done it time after time after time with these mega sites, investing, like the most recent one, over $50 million on a mega site.
It's incredible.
They figured it out, and
Rick,
it has worked.
Yeah, we're out of time. I really appreciate your time this morning. Great catching up, and we'll talk soon.
You bet, my friend. Take care. You're doing a great job, incidentally.
You're shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Pleasure to be with you on this Tuesday morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. The C Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. The best teams know how to get even better. That's why C Spire constantly enhances their wireless, fiber internet, and business solutions for you. Visit cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. My thanks to Ricky Mathews for joining us for the end of the 7 o'clock hour. And we stick with conversations with guests right now as Brian Welton joins us right now. He is the CEO of Baptist Hospital North Mississippi. That is the hospital located in Oxford. And during the month of April, a pretty significant award for Baptist Hospital. That was a top 250 hospital in America as designated by Healthgrades. Brian, good morning. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Hey, good morning, Richard. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being with us, and I'm curious about this recognition. How big of a deal is this in the healthcare landscape when you say top 250 hospital in the entire country? That strikes me as a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I think it's a huge deal. You know, we have really worked hard to be able to continue to improve our outcomes for our patients. This is a huge team effort with our medical staff, all the physicians that serve our patients in this hospital, our team of professionals. So it's a really big award, really big recognition, and we're the only hospital in the state of Mississippi to have been named to that list.
I want to dive deeper into that, but before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about about you and your path. You have moved pretty rapidly through the Baptist system at a number of hospitals. If people are watching on SuperTalk TV, they might do a double take when they see you and they see CEO next to your name, because you don't look like you're old enough to be running a major hospital, top 250 hospital in the country. Talk to us a little bit about your path to this position. And by the way, I mean that as a compliment. I think of like grizzled gray for somebody that's running a hospital or a major healthcare system, and you are not that.
Well, it's starting to come in a little bit, but
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Really awesome. Yeah, we've got a really awesome team here at the hospital. But, I've been with the Baptist Health System for 13 years now. I've been in Columbus, Mississippi with our hospital there, our Baptist Medical Group up in Memphis, our West Memphis Hospital in West Memphis, Arkansas. So I've had a lot of great opportunities, been the benefactor of a lot of great teams and leaders here at Baptist, and this is just a great organization.
Well, Oxford is my hometown. It has been for a long time. Three kids that were delivered at Baptist, and so from a local perspective, we hope that you're here for a long time. So, when you are named a top 250 hospital in America, that's great, right? You can put a plaque on the wall, and you can do a media blitz and let people know. But practically, what does that mean for patients that are walking through the doors at Baptist North Mississippi?
Sure. Yeah, that means that we're in the top 5% of hospitals across the country for outcomes. This is data that Healthgrades looks at. This is outcome-based data, mortality rates, readmission rates coming back to the hospital. All of that data gets looked at by Healthgrades. We don't submit that data. Hospitals don't apply for this recognition. We can't opt in or opt out. But what it means ultimately for our patients is that they're getting better outcomes coming to our hospital in Oxford than other hospitals around the region. So really proud of that. Again, takes a team of nurses and radiology techs and housekeeping and lab techs to be able to be working on the same page to deliver those outcomes. We have a quality and infection prevention team that is kind of our eyes in the sky. They're looking at our data every single day down to the exact specific patient level. Say, is this patient getting exactly what they need, the best practice, best standards for care? And that's really what's catapulted us over the past few years to this award.
So is this a hospital an award for hospitals of comparable sizes, or does this encompass all hospitals in the United States under that Healthgrades umbrella?
Yeah, this is all hospitals across the United States that have performed in 21 certain specialties, categories of healthcare, different services. So as long as you've got that 31 different specialties of care, then you're analyzed no matter how big or small you are. So this is us being compared to large academic medical centers and major metropolitan areas across the country down to, maybe smaller hospitals than what we are at Baptist and Oxford. So it really ranges in size. Now, there's another database that we also look at, report our quality data to, called Vizient, and it's a large database that a lot of healthcare organizations across the country use. And we compare ourselves to kind of our own peer group. And for all the specialties that we have here at Baptist and Oxford, how do we compare to our peer group, similar size hospitals? And we're in the top 10% of those hospitals across the country. So, we're finding we're delivering consistent results across different databases and how you look at our patient outcomes.
So just to be clear, this is Baptist North Mississippi being compared to hospitals like, Vanderbilt Medical Center or Sloan Kettering or Johns Hopkins or Cedars-Sinai or the biggest hospitals in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, the United States over.
That's exactly right.
It's pretty significant.
It is.
And maybe I don't have to say that to you. I mean, even within the state of Mississippi, we know that Mississippi has issues within the hospital system, right? That's not something that anybody has run from. There are a lot of people that are working on it, especially as it pertains to rural healthcare. But I think people also know that whether it's in, the Jackson metro area or coastal Mississippi or Hattiesburg or DeSoto County, there are some places that are providing exceptional health care. And so to be the only hospital in Mississippi that has been recognized in this top 250, I think is a really big deal.
It is, yeah. And, we want to continue to get better every day. I think that's kind of the culture, the mission that we've got here at Baptist. And so, we're working every day to figure out what's the next thing that we need to improve upon to deliver better outcomes. So really proud of the team and the effort going on here.
It's my understanding that there are a couple of more recognitions that are coming soon. You may not be able to speak specifically to those, but can you at least kind of lead us down that road?
Yeah, we're really excited about some more recognition besides the Vizient Award, besides the Healthgrades Award. Some more awards coming up actually in just a few days. As we hit May, we'll be able to release some more information on certain safety measures that are looked at nationally by national organizations. So again, it's just kind of keeping with the consistent recognition and results that this team is delivering. So more to come here, hopefully in the next few days.
Visiting with Brian Melton, CEO at Baptist Hospital, North Mississippi, for a couple more minutes. And Brian, based on population, there are certain services that are not available in different hospitals. Has Baptist pushed about as far as it can in North Mississippi in terms of services that are offered, or are there areas where you can still continue to grow?
I think there's a lot of areas where we can continue to grow. We're looking at that, every month, each year to figure out where that opportunity is. This is still a rural area that we serve in a large geographic area from, the Delta over, towards past Tupelo. We have patients that get transferred to our hospital every month from West Tennessee, Northeast Arkansas, mid-Mississippi. So we serve a pretty large geographic area. And with that, we need more and more physicians to be able to serve that geographic region. So we continue to look at areas where we can really make a difference. Primary care is one of those, where there's still a huge need for primary care. So continue to look at that and figure out ways that we can deliver that for the region.
What is recruiting like for you now, whether you're talking about doctors or nurses? We know that historically, certainly over the last decade or two, there has been a nurse shortage. What's it like in terms of recruiting doctors and nurses?
Yeah, on the nursing front, we're very fortunate. We have some of the lowest turnover for nursing in our corporation, as well as in the state. It's much lower than state averages for nursing turnover. So very fortunate there, and I attribute that to our leaders, our culture that we have here, and the meaningful work that we get to do. On the physician front, fewer and fewer physicians are graduating from these residency and fellowship programs. So it has been more challenging to recruit physicians. Fortunately, as you know, Oxford's a great place to be. I think we've got a great hospital here and a great team. So I like our chances to be able to continue to recruit physicians, but it's definitely become more and more difficult over the past few years.
And last thing for you as we wrap up, on the doctors front, what's the balance between partnering with doctors who are in clinics locally versus doctors that are hospital full-time all the time?
Yeah, the hospital's being held more and more accountable now than ever before to be able to manage patients outside of the four walls of our hospital, which traditionally we've not worried about in the healthcare system. And so hospitals are having to figure out how do we partner with our primary care physicians, our OBGYNs outside of the hospital, family practice doctors, to be able to make sure patients aren't coming back to the hospital. They're not overutilizing emergency services. So we try to work closely with our primary care physicians and others to make sure that we're delivering the patient back to their care after they're being discharged from the hospital, coordinating that care and making sure that they're getting the immediate follow-up so they don't return.
Baptist North Mississippi, a top 250 hospital in the country by Healthgrades. Brian, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Rick.
From the
Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Great being with you on this Tuesday morning. My thanks to Brian Welton, CEO at Baptist Hospital, North Mississippi, joining us, and congratulations to everybody involved. You get a rating like they got from Healthgrades, where you are Considered one of the top 250 hospitals in the United States based on, he said, 31 different specialties offered and kind of health outcomes and mortality rates and all the factors that go into that. You are really doing something right. And, I mean, I meant it as the biggest compliment when I talked about Brian looking young. I don't feel like I look young anymore, but he certainly does and is doing a phenomenal job. That's pretty staggering, Lance. And I intentionally named some of those hospitals. Right, there aren't that many hospitals that you can just like roll off the tip of the tongue. But when you talk about Sloan Kettering in New York, or Cedars-Sinai, or Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, or some of the just Vanderbilt Medical Center, UAB, and the Oxford, Mississippi Hospital is not only being compared favorably, but beating out some of those hospitals as a top 250 facility in the country. Boy, what a credit to the leadership and the entire team that they've got at Baptist in Oxford.
Well, it's a beautiful place. When you pull up to it, you look at it and you go, wow. I mean, when they were building it, it was just, I worked for the School of Pharmacy for a while, so I was in and out of a lot of hospitals, going to the pharmacy and meeting a lot of our alumni who worked there, and it was very informative. But when you see something like that getting put together, and also not just the building, but the people and the quality, the ratings. I mean, it is, when they were building that, they wanted it to be a mecca for everyone in North Mississippi and Eastern Arkansas, West Alabama, Tennessee area. Yeah. And I hope that that's what's happening, because I know that they've worked hard to build a great brand and to perform at a high level. And it is a beautiful place. And obviously with Mr. Welton, he's a very sharp guy, knows what he's doing. So, yeah, I mean, he goes in. Sometimes we don't mention enough about the great work these hospitals do. Sometimes we just get the negative, well, this is happening and that. But yeah, I mean, the work those folks do, and even here, UMC and the ones I've been in, great people and just a heart of gold. And when you've got to face people at their worst all the time and you can keep a smile on your face, it's something, and that's very difficult to do. My heart goes out to you, and thank you all of you, for the work that you do for all of us in need.
Well, and there are a lot of hospitals that are in the Baptist system in the northern part of the state, and it spills over into Tennessee as well. And the Oxford Hospital has long been one of the most successful hospitals within that system. So congratulations to everybody involved with that, and sounds like more good news coming for Baptist North Mississippi as well. On Friday, Good Things with Rebecca Turner will be at Quarry Park for the city of Brandon's Jubilee Days. Jubilee Day celebration for the entire family, May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Enjoy carnival rides, games, and classic treats. Visit brandonms.org for more information. That is brandonms.org for more information. And a New Hope on the C Spire text line says the cafeteria at Baptist Oxford is excellent. Yeah, it is. It's my buddy William Norris running that. Great stuff. Great stuff. I want to give you a peek. Like there's something that really fascinates me. Lance, you and I have talked about this a little bit before, and you may be bored by this topic, so forgive me if you are, and if you're listening, you may be bored by it as well. I am fascinated by taking two people and looking at the exact same issue and having such a different perspective or a different belief system about an issue. Like, if you and I are standing next to each other and we watch somebody steal something, and your reaction, Lance, is, he stole that. Turn him into the authorities and prosecute him for theft. And I look at it and go, well, you don't really know what his situation is. It's not really our job to turn him in. And, if he does end up in front of, some sort of a judicial system to deal with theft, he really should be let off because his situation might be different. I hope you know I don't feel that way.
No, I was waiting.
I'm just illustrating the point.
I got you.
That two of us could look at the exact same thing and have such a different belief in what the outcome should be.
I can't disagree with
this
that.
This is not from the Babylon Bee, which is so incredibly funny as a satire site. Although it's kind of like a truth is stranger than fiction a lot of the times.
It's the modern day National Enquirer.
But this is a real story. And I think it's a peek into the liberal mind, which is hard for me to understand. And for many of you, I think is hard to understand. Lola Smallwood Cuevas is a Democrat state senator in the state of California. She has introduced a bill, Senate Bill 560, and there will be a hearing for SB 560 next Monday, May 5th. Let me tell you about this bill. It would decriminalize welfare fraud below $25,000. It would prohibit prosecutions for attempted welfare fraud and would prohibit someone from being charged with perjury if they are subject to prosecution for welfare fraud. Lola Smallwood Cuevas represents a large chunk of Los Angeles County, including Mar Vista, West Los Angeles, Baldwin Hills, Ladera Heights, Century City, Playa Vista, and parts of downtown L.A. Can you make it make sense?
Well,
introducing legislation to the State House in California that would decriminalize welfare fraud below $25,000. So if you commit fraud on the welfare system of $24,750, you're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, if are you talking about and I'm trying to find that, but is this the state of California? It's their money, and that's what they want to do with it, or is this U.S. taxpayer dollars? It's hard for me to believe that California's laws would supersede those for welfare recipients for the federal government. So they can just do what they want, I guess. Kind of like, the federal courts get to just, some dude up in Oregon can now make law for people in North Carolina.
Yeah.
About how that's par for the course, yeah.
But you were delineating between California money and federal money.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because when California digs itself in a hole, as they have done for years and years and years now, what do?
That's kind of my point. Yeah,
they ask the feds, they ask you and me and us to bail them out.
Well, one thing, I love the way we give California some favored nation status. 20 years ago or so, was Jefferson County in Alabama claimed bankruptcy, and I don't remember the federal government stepping in and fixing that for them. But yet over in California, they can, just run deficits, do whatever they want, pay for this kind of stuff, and legal, but they can just get away with it. Federal government steps in and helps them out because California is so important. But little old Jefferson County over here in Alabama, we don't really care about you too much.
C-Spire text line, blasphemy, fake news. You're making that up. I wish I was.
It's right here.
I really wish I was.
WFIN.com 95.5. Go check it out.
I'm looking at the actual bill text amended in the Senate March 28th, 2025, introduced by Senator Smallwood Cuevas on February 20th of 2025, an act to amend Section 10980, 11004, and 18927.1 of, and add to Section 10981.2, the Welfare and Institutions Code relating to public social services. And again, the summary is this. A bill that would decriminalize welfare fraud below the amount of $25,000, prohibit prosecutors for attempted welfare fraud, prosecutions for attempted welfare fraud. So if you actually commit fraud, but it's below $25,000,
you good.
Not a crime.
You good.
You try to commit welfare fraud in any amount of money, not a crime, because you weren't smart enough to pull it off or you got caught or whatever.
Give a trophy.
And you cannot be charged with perjury if you're subject to prosecution for welfare fraud. Hold on a second. So, as I understand perjury, you are lying in court to protect yourself. You perjure yourself. You do not tell the truth. And you can't be charged with perjury if you're subject to prosecution for welfare fraud. Make it make sense. You can't.
From the Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Politics are fair game. Mentioned it earlier. Amazon is adding the additional cost on prices as a line item showing tariffs. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, this morning in a press briefing says that this is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Amazon will soon display the tariff cost right next to each product's price on their website. The customer will be able to tell how much extra they are paying because of tariffs.
And they're going to, is that, you think it'll ever go down? Curiosity there. Once they get what they can get and people still buy it, do you really think prices will come down? And will that be accurate after prices, shrink? And were they still going to put the tariff costs up there and make you believe you're paying for something you're not?
Don't take my word for it. Listen to Caroline Leavitt. She was asked about this morning and responded with a pretty strong statement as the mouthpiece for the White House.
A perfect, crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China who is going to have to pay for these policies.
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
All right, so that's from Caroline Leavitt. Some of your messages on the C Spire text line. There's nothing hostile or overtly political in the transparency of telling people what they are now paying in new taxes. Mose says Amazon may get a surprise if people decide not to buy.
Well, the same concept would be true then. What am I paying for when I pay for the fee? Whose salaries are these going to? If you want to get down to the nickel and diming, why don't you just provide a fair accounting of every penny you spend if it's not political?
Yeah. I don't see an issue there. Amazon is a private company. It's their prerogative to protect their own interests. I like that Amazon policy. It makes it easier to tell the country of origin.
I'm good with it. Just be open about everything. That's fine with me.
Also, Dave says something most Americans don't know is we would not have lower prices, and we never opened trade with China back during the Nixon years. And let's add that we would still have more factories in the United States where people were making a decent living, but those factories closed once we started getting cheaper goods from China. It's the chicken and the egg thing. More on the C Spire text line. You can join the conversation, 601-879-4395. Just buy local and drive your own economy.
Well, and I'll go back to the California comment. If you want such autonomy, why do you need my money? If you want to run things the way you want to run it, and you don't need the federal government, then why are you taking my tax dollars?
Here's the thing that really gets to the core of the issue. And for the person that said a second ago there's nothing hostile or overtly political, Stewart points out there were already tariffs on Chinese products. Why didn't they disclose that sooner?
That's my point. There have been tariffs on every product just about.
All right, so let me ask you this,
on.
Lance. There's a deeper question here, right? So 145% is the number that we've seen on Chinese tariffs. We know that tariffs were already in place, and they were baked in to the cost of the goods that you were paying, right? So you need to buy let's say you buy a shovel.
Yeah,
You buy a shovel on Amazon instead of going to your local hardware store. And let's say that shovel cost $40. So you're paying $40. You're paying sales tax on top of that, whatever your local sales tax is. So in Mississippi, it'd be $4.62. So you're paying $44.62 on that shovel that you were buying on Amazon instead of buying it at your local hardware store. Baked into the $40 cost of that were the tariffs that were already in place on China. Here's what I'm wondering, and I think you and I both know the answer to this. Now that we have very publicly 145% tariffs, what do you think they're doing? You think they're taking the $40 price of the shovel and only adding the difference in what the tariff was previously and was baked into the cost of the good that you were buying, the shovel that you were buying for $40? Or do you think they're saying $45% of the $40 shovel is your new price? What do you think they're doing?
It's just the way of the world that we live in. I mean, they're not – it's just going to be more. I mean, they weren't disclosing it to begin with, but now they're all of a sudden, going to disclose everything. And no, I don't think it'll be fair.
Thomas says that shovel at your local store came from China too. I am well aware of that, Thomas.
Yeah,
but you are putting the money into your local economy as opposed to putting it in the pocket of Jeff Bezos. And I'm not necessarily trying to make Jeff Bezos out to be some bad guy. He has provided through Amazon a convenience to American consumers that didn't exist 20 years ago.
Well, again, I mean, it's price elasticity as well. I mean, how far does the dollar go? One of our listeners made that point. How far does the dollar go when it's spent locally? How many times does that dollar change hands and turn hands locally versus the alternative?
Isn't the number isn't there like a 3x turnover for every dollar that is spent in your local economy?
Yeah, I mean, and it's extremely powerful. You wonder where jobs go? Well, when you're not spending the money in your local economy, where do you think they're going to go? They follow the money.
Bill says the Dow, I'm sorry, it's not text line. That's something from Twitter. I was looking at this last night. At close yesterday, the Dow was at 40,305.52. That is up 1,900 points in the past year, 5%. So, for all of the gnashing of teeth over, I've lost everything in my 401k, I'll never be able to retire. In the last year, the market is up 5%.
But hey, the sky's falling,
Richard. That's slightly below average, slightly, but not much.
You can
365 days.
It's a head scratcher.
April 28th, 2024 to April 28th, 2025, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 5%, 1,919 and 43 points.
I remember when 5% was a fairly decent return, conservative.
Yeah.
And people weren't sitting there going, I need 10%.
Is.
Now I need 15%. Now I need 20%. 5, 6, 7% was a good rate of return.
And look, I mean, over a 100-year window in the stock market, the average return is about 8%.
About 8, yeah.
And if you are making 8% on your money, then you bring in what is it, the rule of sevens? Like if you put $1 into the stock market and average an 8% annual return, your money doubles every 7 years.
Especially if you're not.
And that works at scale too. It's not just $1. If you put in $100 a month into a retirement account, $1,200 a year. That $1,200 7 years from now is $2,400. And there's a compounding effect that is, the beauty of compound interest.
Well, and the right account style helps out a lot, too, to shield you from any potential taxation or things for holdings in your account and things. But, yeah, I mean, if you can get a solid conservative rate of return, the average, let's say, is 8. The average means that it's not always going to be 8 or above. Such is life. You're not always going to get what you want. Not sitting here slapping anybody in the face, but we all know how this works. If it's an average of 8.3% roughly, you're not always going to get 8.3%. That's why it's an average.
Yeah. That's right. There are years where it's going to be 13%. There are years where it's going to be 3.5%.
Right. I mean, that's gone back since the beginning of the stock market, folks. I mean, this isn't just because Trump came in and implemented some tariffs. Remind you that there were tariffs on everything.
Look, neither Republicans nor Democrats like to admit this, but there is a philosophy or a tenet in economics that over an extended period of time, the economy is cyclical. And it has ups and it has downs. And it might not be as based on who is in the White House or who has the lead role in Congress in a given 2, 4, or 8-year window. Am I way off on that, Lance? You've studied economics way more than I have, but I mean, if you look at a 100-year history of the stock market, kind of goes in circles.
Look at the big cycle plans, the 80-year to 88-year cycles. That's what you need to pay attention to for the big piece of where we are.
Thomas says 5% was a good return without this massive inflation from government spending.
Bingo.
That's why it's a big deal that inflation a year ago or 2 years ago was at 9%, and now it's at 2.6. That matters.
From
Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I came here looking for something I couldn't find anywhere else. Hey, I'm not trying to be nobody. I just want a chance to be myself.
Oh, hold on a second. Are we at the end of the road for today?
Just about, brother.
No. I need more road.
We got more time? No.
We have more to discuss.
Never stops.
You know how everything in government has an acronym?
Yeah, they're getting good at those, too. I think AI's coming up with them, though. There's no way people are that smart to keep coming up with all these things.
Are you familiar with Senate Bill 58 at the federal level?
No.
This is the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments Act.
Uh-huh.
Do you care to take a guess?
No, I'm going to let you tell me on that one.
The Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments Act. Acronym? Mm-hmm. The Pelosi Act.
Yeah, I mean, AI had to come up with that, man. There's no way.
I don't know. This was originally introduced in 2023. It has been reintroduced by Senator Josh Hawley. A bill that prohibits members of Congress or their spouses from holding or trading certain investments, for example, individual stocks and related financial instruments, other than diversified investment funds or U.S. Treasuries, while they are in office. The prohibition does not apply to assets held in a qualified blind trust or to sales by a member to come into compliance with the bill's requirements. Specifically, the bill allows for sales by current members during the 180 days following the enactment of the bill, and for sales by future members during the 180 days following the commencement of their service. Any profit made in violation of the prohibition must be disgorged to the Treasury and may be subject to the member to a civil fine. So Josh Hawley, the senator from Missouri, once again introducing the Pelosi Act, saying that members of Congress and elected officials should not be able to own securities and investments, specific stocks and financial instruments. It would not preclude a member of Congress, at least I don't think, from owning an ETF, from owning mutual funds, where you've got lots of diverse stocks.
I don't care if they own securities or not. They ought to be held to the same standard the American people are. Just because you're a congressman or elected official or something, you should not have any other rights granted to you that the average person from the pool of people you were chosen from have. You have to disclose. You should have to disclose everything, the source of all funds, based on your OFAC report, all of the same reporting that everyone else has to.
Yeah, but the problem is it's hard to prove it a lot of the time.
Well, I mean, if you're in a meeting where GE is about to do something and you go buy GE, you should be thrown in jail.
Yeah.
Like everybody else would be. Ask Martha Stewart how that worked out for her.
Told you Scott Bessent was alongside Caroline Levitt. He responds to a question about tariffs on the Chinese this morning. It's about a minute and a half. It's going to take us to close to the end of the show, but I want you to hear this before we close things down today.
The Chinese continue to say that the U.S. and China are not engaged in any consultation or negotiation on tariffs. You recently said you've talked to your counterpart, but more about, quote, traditional things like financial stability. So can you clarify, is the administration talking to Beijing specifically about tariffs or not?
Well, we're not going to talk about who's talking to whom, but I think that, over time we will see that the Chinese tariffs are unsustainable for China. I've seen some very large numbers over the past few days that show if these numbers stay on, Chinese could lose 10 million jobs very quickly. And even if there is a drop in the tariffs, that they could lose 5 million jobs. So remember that we are the deficit country. They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell.
Sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them, making the United States the deficit country in that trade partnership. And China is different, right? I mean, if you want to talk about deficit trading with Australia, you're talking about apples and oranges. But you're talking about apples and apples when you're talking about China, which some reports show has a larger economy and more buying power even than the United States by about a third. And so leveling the playing field with China is the deal. But it goes back to the question that we have asked over and over and over. If you believe what Scott Bessent is saying, how much pain can you or are you willing to endure? Do you have the ability to endure the pain and push China to a breaking point in the negotiation, or is China's resolve as a country and with its leadership simply stronger than that of the United States? The answer to that question may be obvious, and we might not like the answer to that question. Thanks for being with us. Enjoyed the guest conversations we had today. Enjoyed the interaction with you on the C Spire text line. For Lance, I'm Richard. We hope you have a great Tuesday. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.